Welcome back to the channel. We continue to learn Power BI, and in today's video, we are going to take a look at how to maximize the filter pane. This is part of the reporting techniques that you will be using in Power BI. The filter pane is located in the report view, and there's some different filters that you may not be aware of. You can do some advanced filters. You can do some conditional filtering. You can also filter on individual visuals, and you can put filters on the entire page. So we're going to show you how to maximize that filter pane, how to get the most out of the filters for both you, the report designer, and also for the person utilizing the report, the person trying to find those data insights. Let's go to the filter pane in Power BI. Back in Power BI, we continue along, and today we're going to take a look at the report menu and look at how you can use and maximize your filter pane in Power BI. The report view has changed a little bit over the last few years, but the filter pane has been pretty consistent in the report view over the years in Power BI. Now, if you're new to Power BI, you do have some different views on your report view screen. If you go to the view menu, and you can follow along by downloading the file, the AdventureWorks file, there'll be a link in the description below. You can download that file and follow along. It already has a built-in model, and therefore we can just start using the filter pane. But in the report view, if you go to the view menu, you have some options where you can show your filters. You've got your pane manager, and then you can open and close some of your different filter visuals. So if you want your filter visual closed, you can hit the right arrow button, and now you have more room on your report view. If you click the left arrow button, your filter options go away. The same thing with your visual guide. You can close it with the right arrow, and then you can open it by clicking your build visual on the right-hand side. Now, your data visual, this shows you all of your different tables and your columns. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about the filter pane. There's really two things that are the main components of this filter pane. You have the filter on this page component. Then you have the filter on all pages component. And depending on what you want to filter, either an individual visual, or if you want to filter a page, or if you want to filter all pages, we'll show you some of those different options with Power BI. So this report, if you download it below in the description, is the AdventureWorks 2020. The intro page, and what we're going to do is create two additional pages. We're going to rename them Report Page 1. Then we're going to create a second page, and we're going to rename this Report 2. So this way we can show you some of those different options for visuals and pages and filters. So let's go back to the intro page. If you go to the home menu, and if you select a visual, we will select the line chart. What it does is it creates a chart. We're going to make one DAX measure just to make it easier to see this. If you go to sales and create a new measure, we're going to create total sales, and it's going to equal the sum of sales, and it's going to be sales amount. So your DAX expression is sum of sales and sales amount. This will give us a measure called total sales. We're going to format it to 0 decimal places. So now in our line chart, if we put in the fiscal year and we bring in total sales, now we see sales, and we can sort axis by fiscal year, or we could actually sort by total sales. So now we have this chart, and we can start to look at what some of the different options do on. Now you notice we have filter on this visual. We have filters on this page, and we have filters on all pages. This current filter, if we want to filter by year, because we have year in there, and we also have total sales. So we could see 2018. And it might be better to actually look at this as a column chart. So now when we see 2018, when we uncheck 2018, we go back to our 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So that is filtering on a visual, and the different filter options, when you click on this visual, depend on what you have in that visual. So we have total sales in there. So now we could do is less than, or greater than, is or is not. Those are some of the different options for total sales. And for basic filtering on the years, we can also choose either advanced filtering or a top-in filtering. So if we go to advanced filtering, we could have it be contain, and we could also type in here 2018, apply that filter, and now 2018 shows. If we want to do a top-in, we could show the top year. So we type in top 1, and what we would want to do is we want to put in total sales by value. So now we would show the top 1 by total sales, and that's 2020. So that is filtering on a visual with the filter pane. Next up, we're going to take a look at filters on a page and filters in a report. We have looked at the visual filter in Power BI. We are on the intro page. Remember, you can download the file below in the description, VentureWorks 2020. Now, we created a visual, and then we filtered by the year. Now, we can also filter by other choices. If we wanted to filter by the country, we can bring up the country into this visual. And now we could filter by Australia for 2020 or Canada for 2020. We're going to show you how the additional filters work. You also have a page filter and then a report filter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the report 1. We're going to create a new visual, and we're going to bring in total sales, and we're going to bring in the fiscal year. And just to have a different option, we're going to bring in another chart, and we are going to bring in the country, and we're going to bring in the fiscal year. So we can bring on the y-axis, we are going to bring in total sales. So now we've got total sales by country on this visual. So the next visual we're going to look at is the page filter. So if you look at your filter, currently we only have 2 options: filters on this page, filters on all pages. And if you go back to the intro, we have that filter on this visual only when the visual is selected. If you go back to report 1, if we want to filter this page to only see total sales by a country on both of these visuals, we can do that by bringing in this country visual up here to filters on this page. So now if we select Australia Now we see Australia sales for 2020, 2018, and 2019. And on the second visual, we see only Australia. Now, if we select all, it goes back to all sales on both visuals. And in this visual, it's broken down by the country. If we unselect everything and select Canada, now we see the Canada sales. So it filters all the visuals on this page. Now here's where it really gets interesting. Let's say you decide to create an additional visual. So if you make a card visual and you bring in total sales to this card, you see 16 million. But that is the sales for Canada. If we go back to selecting all, the total sales are 110 million. And by selecting Canada, it's 16 million. It's filtering every visual on this page. So even if we make more additional visuals, they'll be reflected by the current filter on this page. So that is filtering on a page with the filter pane. And the next visual we're going to take a look at is filtering the entire report with your filter visual. Back in Power BI, we've looked at the visual filter. We've also looked at the report on this page filter. Time now to take a look at the filter on all pages. But before we do that, I do want to show you an additional function. When you have the filters on this page selected, and we're currently filtering by Canada, when you go back to the intro page, this is not being filtered because it is only filtering on the page. And we're going to create an additional visual. And if we choose the total sales, we see 110 million on this card. And when we go back to the report one and we look at the filter, which is currently on Canada, now if we go to the third page, report page 2, we're going to create a card visual. And currently, we're going to select total sales. Now, if we bring in our country filter to all pages, now if we select Australia, we see $11 million in total sales on report page 2. If we go back to report page 1, everything has gone blank because our filter on that page is Canada. But if we now select all, now we see that 11 million for Australia sales. And then if we go back to the initial page, we see again, this filter, total sales is 11 million, but now we've lost our filter on that visual. So the filter on the entire report is overriding the individual filters on this sales, and it's also connected to the page filter. So that shows you some of the different visuals and how it's affected when we look at the total report view on all pages. Now, again, if we create an additional visual and we bring in the monthly sales and we bring in the total sales, you can see the total sales by month, but this is being filtered by Australia. So now if we select Canada, we see 16 million in total sales. We see the total sales by month on this visual for Canada, if we go back to the intro page, that overrides to the 16 million on the total sales visual. But in that report one view, we see Canada. Now, if we go back to the select all, we still see Canada is filtered, even though on the report page 2, we have Canada filtered on report page 2 for all filters. But now, if I select France, France will get filtered on this page because it's all pages. And on the second page, it gets filtered because all pages of the report are being filtered by France. And then if we go back to that visual, we see 7 million in sales because that is filtering all visuals on all pages. But if we go back to this one, we are still seeing Canada because this individual filter is filtering out Canada. So that is how you need to determine, do you want to filter on all pages? Do you want to filter on the individual visual? Or do you want to just filter on that particular page? So that is something you need to look at when you're building your visuals on your report. So other things that you can do is if you go back to report page 2, we see the total sales is the report visual. But if we want to see an advanced filter, we could go to the advanced filtering and we could bring in the fiscal year and we could look at 2020. So now we've got all of the sales by month for 2020 on all report views. So if we go back to this one, we see France for 2020 and we see 5 million in sales for the individual visual on total sales. So that is some of the different options. Remember, you may want to build country-specific page visuals. You may want to build year visuals on a filter by a page. But you may want to build an individual report for either like a sales manager or for a division manager, and they may want to see sales by that country. Now, let's say you don't want to see a visual on the report. So now you can remove this filter. If we remove that filter, we now still have the visual on this page filtered by the year. But if we go back to report 2, we could bring in, if we remove the 2020 filter, now we could bring in the group filter to this all pages. And now we could select Europe. So now we see 20 million in total sales for Europe. We see everything filtered for Europe on this page filter. And then we can also see 20 million in total sales on that filter. And again, we could go back to this one and select Pacific sales. So the Pacific region had 30 million in total sales. So those are some of the different options on the different filter views. Remember, if you want more area on your report view, you can close the filter and then you can open it back up. And you could also build out additional, if you build additional visuals on this filter, they will automatically filter to what you currently have selected. So the Pacific region is 11 million in sales. The Pacific and Europe region is a combined 30 million in total sales. And if you unselect Pacific, you see that your Europe region sales are 20 million in total sales. So just to look at some of the different filter editing visuals that you can do with the filter on a page, filter on a visual, and filter on a report. That is a look at the filter pane visual in Power BI.